The government of Uganda is concerned with water pollution in the country. Minister for Water and Environment Sam Cheptoris said it is important to fight plastic pollution on Lake Victoria so as to reduce diseases that come with water pollution. He said costs of treating water from the lake for drinking and safe use by humans rose by more than 8 times from 2010 to 2020. Simon Thaw, a water specialist in Kenya, admitted that the cities around Lake Victoria lack proper waste disposal systems, which leads to most of the urban wastes ending up in Lake Victoria.
The impact of pollution on fresh water in Africa is really, really critical. You find in countries including Uganda, including Kenya, including Tanzania, their individual contribution to pollution is causing significant degradation of Lake Victoria. You've been reading about fish worth billions dying in Kenya and also in Tanzania and to an extent in some parts of Uganda. You've been reading about this hyacinth, which is a big problem even to hydropower production, interferes with the way the turbines are working, and it also interferes with movement in the lake. And it is all caused by upstream pollution, particularly from agricultural sources. We also have medical waste getting into the water system. This causes multiple problems to human health. In Kenya, up to 70% of the disease incident is because of contamination of water. In Uganda, it is a similar figure.
Dr. David Wele, a lecturer of environmental sciences, expressed fear that the more water is polluted, the more diseases people get.
Pollution has a lot of costs. If you are drinking the water contaminated with high concentration of algal blooms, we have what we call harmful algal blooms. These blooms, when you take them, or this kind of species of algae, when you take them in water, then they are toxic, they toxify the body. But also, when we look at heavy metals, for example, as the body takes in excess heavy metals, each species of heavy metal has different impacts. For example, we have lead, we have mercury, which can have impacts on the function of the immune system and also on the kidney. Excess consumption of heavy metals can result into death. The cost of water treatment. As the water becomes polluted, then you have to put in more chemicals. You have to invest a lot of treatment costs, which transfers the cost to the final consumers. The biggest issue with pollution of the lake is due to unplanned development. This is urbanization, industrialization, and settlements. Unless we come up with a way of how to regulate development, if you are putting up a factory, you need to have a wastewater treatment plan before you discharge the waste into the receiving environment. Protecting the natural ecosystems such as wetlands, which were there before, for example, in Nairobi wetland, purifying the water before it enters Murchison Bay, it has been removed. But also the government can sensitize local communities. How do you protect these ecosystems like forests and wetlands within the catchment to ensure that they can filter the incoming waste before they reach the lake?
Director National Fisheries Resources Research Institute, Dr. Winnie Nkalubo, said a number of bodies like Africa 21, Water Diplomat, and countries that share the water resource are on board to tackle the pollution challenge, among other water-related issues.
Plastic bottles, anything plastic. And when you go to these areas near the lakes or the rivers, you tend to find lots of caberas, lots of plastic bottles, and for one reason or another, they end up in our systems. The other thing to note is also the practice with the fishermen, because as a way of setting their nets to catch fish, they are using plastics. Now, the issue of microplastics in fish and why should we be concerned? There have been various studies world over, and we should not think that this is a unique problem in our waters. It's also a concern in the bigger water bodies like oceans. Plastics and the lack of regulations to control. I think we're still grappling with this in Uganda. Scientists mainly handling this plastic found out a certain form of plastic. They could be a danger because some studies have shown that they end up in fish. There was a study in Tanzania where they found some plastic particles in the digestive system of the fish. We have to be proactive in terms of how do we solve the problem. We have partners in Kenya and Tanzania, and these are equally research institutes. There is the Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute in Kenya, and then there is the Tanzanian Fisheries Research Institute in Tanzania. And what brings us together is to talk about issues on the Lake Victoria. We share the lake between 3 countries, and so issues of plastic pollution is something that we are beginning to talk about.
What experts on the issue of pollution in Lake Victoria? Fonizawa, Sarah, Natoolo. reporting.